Hey, good morning. Because it's morning where we are, as usual, drinking coffee. And this is Old Buck Dell.
And with him is old Buck Dave.
Yeah,
Drinking coffee also. Sorry, I was right mid-gulp there.
And we have, today for some reason we were sitting in different chairs. I'm facing east and he's facing west, which normally I face west, he face east.
You're telling them our secrets here, buddy.
So that means he's not prepared for what I'm going to throw at him the first thing. So,
as usual.
So, and he certainly didn't read this beforehand. No, hey, good people. Sometimes these fantastic ideas strike me early in the morning, and Dave and I were talking, and we were talking about the fact that at our current age, we get tired. And we were doing some things, and a couple hours later, if you're an old buck, your body tends to let you know that you might have overdone it, and that you get a little dehydrated, and you pay.
You mean the mistake I made by kayaking the other morning when it was 90 degrees?
Which is something you don't normally do.
Something I don't normally do.
And that is a totally different muscle regime right there. So anyhow, I'm thinking, it occurred to me that I had a favorite cartoonist, and Dave and we've talked about him, Gary Larson. I think I referred to him on a couple of occasions. He kind of had an animal theme in his cartoons, but there's one very particular one. People can find it as an old buck, or maybe a young buck, but definitely a deer with a big antler running through the forest, and he is jumping over a log, and the shape of his antlers are such that he's about to encounter a limb of a tree. And I said to myself,
not a good thing.
Yeah, and I said to myself, I said, this is a good example of life. You know, you got all this vim and vigor, or so you think, and you're doing all the things you used to do, running through the forest, helter-skelter through the forest, and all of a sudden, one day your antlers catch that tree limb, and bang, you come to a dead stop.
Oh, gosh.
So I said to Dave, I said, I think it's interesting that you and I are both we're talking about similar things, since we're almost the same age for a few days. But I tried to do something that required a little extra effort, some squatting and some lifting, and I paid for it. So to all you old bucks out there.
And you old vixens.
You vivacious vintage vixens. Just remember, one day, the old antlers get caught in the limb of a tree, and you realize you can't do this stuff anymore. So
well, the vixens don't have the antlers, so that's why they live longer than we do.
They probably are. They're probably a
little bit smarter than we are. A little more cautious.
That's a good point. The old bucks think they can run through the forest like this for the longest time, until one day you say, man, I just can't jump as high. I can't get off the floor without pushing off. So anyhow, I laughed about it, and of course I had to tell Dave my story, and you folks get to join in. So be careful out there, old bucks. We're getting old.
And vintage vixens.
And vicious and
can you say that three?
Vivacious
vintage vixens. Say that 3 times backwards fast.
Vivacious vintage vixens.
Okay.
So anyhow, Dave, what's up with you? What's happening?
What's happening with me? Well, you were talking the other day about complaining about spam calls, and you said you had a big idea.
I do. Do you get spam calls?
I get spam calls all the time.
And do you have a spam call bin where you block them or put them in?
I do. I do have a place, one of the levels of hell, where I try to put the blocked spam.
Do you ever count them? Do you ever count them?
I do. No, I've not counted them. You have, apparently.
I have counted them. I have accounted
for
them. Actually, I was counting
them
10 at a time, and I realized in my spam call bin, which I had cleared already once, I have 150 plus numbers of phone numbers that I have blocked that are clearly spam. Some that I've even answered. If you don't say hello, the recording doesn't start. So I said to myself, if I have 150, you probably have at least 150 too, I would think also.
Probably, maybe, yeah.
Maybe you have some that I don't even have, right?
Hair?
Well,
I'm sorry.
That's true. You do have a head of hair, and I don't. But you know what I mean. You have a list. I have a list. What if we could somehow merge these lists? What if I got a list of my spam numbers?
I see where you're going.
And this app would simply merge the two. All of a sudden, I could block from a trusted source 400 numbers. Would I be ahead of the curve? Would that help me get ahead of this? You know, I mean, there seems like an unlimited set of numbers that are used for this purpose.
I mean, what if we started asking other people to send us their list of blocked numbers?
Well, at least
we could create a blockchain. We could create a cryptocurrency.
Hey, wait a minute. Now you're on to something.
No.
That would be a proper blockchain.
That would be a proper blockchain.
We could start right here and now. You heard it out there. Somebody out there in Cyberland is going to come up with a true blockchain. And you can download the app, and then you can say, I think I'm going to block 500 numbers. And you just get all these numbers into your block file. And I could go a whole day without the 4 or 5 spam calls I get. I think this has potential.
I think it does too.
I'm thinking the crisis response and planning will be involved with this.
Oh, yes.
Don't you think?
The folks from CRAP, absolutely.
Bob, if you're listening, we expect you to old Buck Bob. I expect you to send something in on how to resolve this issue. So, but I did think about that. I think, I wonder if there's some way to do that where you could just add a bunch of numbers on that we knew were spam from a trusted source.
Yeah.
And we could get ahead of the curve. There would just be no number we didn't want could ever be called.
You imagine how big this would get. We would be decimating Amazon rainforests by the minute. Talk about.
And then your phone would say, can no longer accept any data at all because you blocked 9 million numbers. I don't know. Maybe there's a flaw in this idea somewhere. Who knows? But anyhow, if there was a way to do it.
Whether there is or not, let it be known that it's our idea. So we own the idea.
That's right. We had the big idea.
Another big idea.
Big idea.
Yeah.
A cup of coffee and a cheese Danish, man. I'm telling you what it does for
that's all it takes.
Creative thinking. Anyhow, that's my big idea of today, and the fact that I felt like I ran into a tree with my antlers exposed. So.
That's a pretty good idea.
I think it is. I think 150 numbers.
Except we're going to have to figure out a way to do an environmentally sensitive blockchain on this.
And there might have to be some duplicates. Maybe we already are blocking the same numbers. So maybe we should sit down some afternoon.
This is another big idea.
And compare. I'll read a phone number to you, and then you go through your list, and you tick it off and see if you've got it.
I have an
answer. And then after the wife serves the divorce papers,
I was going to say.
We can move on to a serious subject like cutting the grass or something.
Putting us in smile view together.
I give up. Okay. It was just a big idea.
It was a big idea. So it's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
You're just humoring me again, right? You're just smiling.
Pretty
and
much.
It's not a bad idea.
Pretty much. It's a stupid idea.
A good friend will do that, ladies and gentlemen. A long time. Good friend will humor you and smile at your great ideas, and not ever tell you you're going crazy until it's absolutely certain.
Moving right along. Hey, do you recall I talked about my Siberian train trip?
I do recall that.
I thought that was episodes ago.
Fantastic adventure.
I guess I only talked about bits and pieces of it.
Right.
And so there's more stories for the future.
It's a long trip.
It was a long trip. Yeah, it was 6 days and 6 nights on the train and a couple stopover days in the middle of that.
Do we not forget that you had to get from here to the starting point, and you get from the end point back to here? If you add that to the trip, it's almost around the world, isn't it?
It was an around the world trip. That's exactly what it was, because I went from the U.S. to China, to Russia,
and came back the other side.
Germany to,
Yeah, so it was a round the world trip. So it was longer than just a rail line trip. So it was an amazing adventure.
It was quite a trip.
I admire you for doing that. Better you than me.
I question that sometimes. But anyway,
please experience this
why-
for me, Dave, because I don't have the guts to do it myself.
why I brought this up is,
Why did you bring it up?
is a Vintage Vexen sent me 2 magazine articles recently out of the New Yorker magazine. The articles are called Travels in Siberia, Parts 1 and 2, by Ian Fraser. And these appeared in the New Yorker in 2009, 2 different editions, and I'll have the links in the liner notes. They're long articles, very interesting articles, talked about different things. Let me read the opening paragraph in the first article. Officially, there is no such place as Siberia. No political or territorial entity has Siberia as its name. In atlases, the word Siberia hovers across the northern third of Asia, unconnected to any place in particular, as if designating a zone or a condition. It seems to show through like a watermark on the page. During Soviet times, revised maps erased the name entirely in order to discourage Siberian regionalism. Despite this invisibility, one can assume that Siberia's traditional status as a threat did not improve. So that's a good opening.
I always assumed it was a place.
Well, it's a region, but it's not. Doesn't
Like
there's
the
no
Sahara.
boundary. There's no.
So it's like the Sahara.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like the Midwest, the U.S. Midwest. Yeah. Where is it? It depends how you define.
Okay.
So it's not an official territory. It's not a state. It's 3/4 of Russia. 3/4 of Russia is actually Siberia.
It's lightly populated, though, isn't it?
It's lightly populated, very lightly populated. I think.
And it's cold.
It's cold. It actually, yes, it can get down to like minus 100 F in the winters.
Oh.
Yeah, when we were in Irkutsk, we asked the girl at the restaurant, well, what's it like here in the winter? She says, oh, real bad, minus 40, minus 50. It's like, that's not for me. Anyway, so it's 3/4 of Russia. It's roughly from the Urals to the Pacific. It's 1/3 of Asia, and it's 1/12 of the world's landmass. Continental U.S. and most of Europe could fit inside it, just to put it in perspective. It's big.
What's flashing through my mind that I'm thinking we need to get some development over there. We need to start building houses and putting up malls. It just seems like a great opportunity.
Maybe we could build a fewer houses and malls down here because it's getting crazy.
I'm thinking there shouldn't be that much space left without a bunch of.
Probably housing prices are lower there.
But I did read something about that. A lot of that stuff is frozen tundra, and you can't unthaw it.
That is correct.
Oh, thank you.
It is. Yeah, it's permafrost.
Yeah, permafrost.
And it also results in Siberia having the world's largest swamps.
Right.
Okay, because this permafrost the top part of it is freezing, freezing.
What if that
it's just
melts?
a big swamp, basically drains into the Arctic area there. Yeah. So it's not a very world's worst mosquitoes. Okay.
Oh, really?
World's worst mosquitoes. He said the mosquitoes can be so bad that like livestock will suffocate by mosquitoes they inhale trying to breathe, and it just clogs their passages, and then they die. I mean,
well, when you were there, you were obviously in a train, but if you stuck your hand out the window, would you run into a bunch of mosquitoes?
Well, we were not for the most part, it was not swampy. We were certain areas were swampy, but
wasn't that permafrost?
Wasn't permafrost there? Yeah,
all right.
That was.
All right, I'm diverting here a bit.
That's all right.
So you're talking about some people that drove across this, or is there?
Yeah. So this guy, he's from New Jersey, and the interesting thing in the article, and I scanned through, is nowhere does it say what his motivation was. It's like, why did I decide I wanted to drive across Russia?
What was your motivation?
My motivation?
Yeah. No, did I catch you? No. I catch you off guard there, did I?
My motivation is I had business in China, and I had bugged my wife for years to go to China with me.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And you were already there.
So we were with a German guy one night, and he said, what you should do is take the train to Moscow from Beijing. And of course, she's got Ukrainian roots and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So like, oh yeah, she says, well, okay, I'll go to China if we can go to Moscow on the train. Little did she realize
it's
what she had bargained for.
It's like from Pittsburgh to Philly, just a short 4-hour ride or something.
It's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay, so
that's how I got there.
Your motivation was we were there, and we could make our way back towards home. Just go take a little detour, since we were halfway there. Let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'd been to Moscow and a couple other cities before, but never been to Siberia. How many people have been to Siberia? So anyway.
Well, I wouldn't say you have gone through that territory. You weren't actually been to Siberia.
No.
You actually drove through an area.
It wasn't in a jail.
Wasn't
in the gulag there.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So carry on.
So I mean, it's very mineral rich, huge petroleum reserves, geologically active. You got the one plate sliding under the other plate out in the west there. So it's a fascinating place. The first article talks about the history of Siberia, the military importance of Siberia down through time, from the Mongols to the Russians, et cetera,
And the importance, because they could go so far away that nobody could attack them there or something. Is that what it was? And that's what this rail line was for that you were on? Was there lots of rail lines out there, by the way? Let me ask you that question.
No.
Just one.
No. This took a lot of years to build. The Trans-Siberian took a lot of years to build. A lot of people died. Used a lot of prison labor, a lot of army labor. And I think on a podcast a long time ago, I mentioned a book about the railway. Fascinating. What the effort
what they went through to build it.
Yeah, and trains,
So there's
crashing through the frozen lake when they ran it across the frozen lake bed. Then the lake melted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that this line, the territory is so rough. There's not a lot of trunk lines going this way and that way.
Correct.
It's just like you're going to go as straight as we can, or whatever way the terrain will allow us to go economically. So I'm trying to picture it. It sounds pretty desolate. So
but I mean, the trip started. The guy actually started at the Black Sea, and he worked his way over to St. Petersburg, and that's where he hooked up with these two Russian guys, and they bought a used Renault step van for the trip, diesel. So they had a lot of fun issues there. It's not going to go far without breaking down, and it broke down. But it was a credit to kind of the Russian ingenuity that these guys always figured out how to fix it, or found a garage that was, open one day every other month. And
you would have to be pretty resourceful to live out there.
It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
So that's part of the story. That's part of the intrigue of the story, is the fact that the any fault, any failure of any part, you had to figure out some way to repair it. Otherwise, that was the end of your trip.
There wasn't a Pep Boys on the corner where you could pick up some parts. Yeah, it was pretty.
So these guys are moving along quite a ways out there. They got they teamed up with some locals, and how does this story twist that adventure in there?
Yeah, that was part of the interesting thing. They spent time at different little towns along the way, and talked about their experiences with some of the people there. A couple of one guy had relatives in the one town. They spent some time there. And so it's, it wasn't a travel log. It's not, we saw the mountains, we saw the rivers. There was some of that, but a lot of it was just the experiences along the way. I think what makes it really fascinating.
My question to you is, what was the most interesting part of the story for you, since you have a on-the-ground sort of experience? Did you enjoy
I like that. Yeah, they spent a couple nights camping at Lake Baikal, which is just outside of Irkutsk, and we had spent 2 nights in Irkutsk. That was our big stop on the trip, and so we got to go to Lake Baikal in a jitney. That was kind of an interesting experience in itself. we said to the hotel, well, we really don't want a big fancy Western style tour with 20 other people. We just want to go there. And she said, okay, then you go down to this part of town, and there's a bunch of cars parked there, and they'll have, each car will have a name, cars or vans or whatever.
Right.
Will have a name of where they're going.
Oh, I see.
So she said, you just, and then we got in that area, and of course, my wife and her sister could speak Russian, so like where's the vans to Baikal? And the guys, okay, you got to go down this there and go down 2 blocks. So we found one. We found a van that had Baikal on it, and we were the first ones, or maybe there was one person on ahead of us, and it was actually a lot nicer than a lot of the vans that were being used.
So that's how you managed to get around it when you stopped.
That's how we got to Baikal from Irkutsk.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So we got on this thing, and we said, I wonder when they're going to leave. And my sister-in-law said, probably when the van's full. And we laughed. And guess what?
You can wait there all afternoon.
So we were there probably another hour.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a full load now. So we went to Baikal.
No actual schedule. It's like when the thing's full, we leave. When we get to go out and come back.
Yeah.
That's very. I think that's a worldwide phenomenon when it comes to those rural transportation systems.
Oh.
So in this story, getting back to the story, the man puts together, I assume, quite a picture. Since I didn't read it, since you have, like I said, you have some knowledge of the ground. What would be the most fascinating thing for me to read? His problems with the vehicles, or the terrain, or the people, or?
I think it's just it's a combination, really. He talks about the history of the area. He talks about the geology of the area. Talks about the politics of the area, and a lot of it is what's today, what's going on there today in these little towns that are. What is
going on there?
Not much is the answer. Not much. I mean, again, it's a very mineral-rich area, and some towns are very prosperous, where they have a nickel refinery or something like that, and other towns are just, we went through so many towns on the railroad that there was a big crumbling building, and that was an That
was where it was at once.
Military/factory that's just been abandoned.
World War II remnants or something.
No, this would have been post-World War II. Even.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is probably like from the 60s.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and every town had its crumbling mega factory.
Clearly, it's a place on Earth that has got some difficult weather, terrain to deal with. And there's only so much you can do with that area. And I'm sure it's a fascinating story.
It is fascinating. Let me just read read part of the last paragraph. This is on the second article, so this is wrapping it up. Mm-hmm. Now, this is when they have gotten to the Pacific Ocean. All right, so they've made it all the way, actually made it to the Pacific.
What is the actual destination there? Is it Vladivostok or something? What is it?
It was near there. But it was a little past.
Okay, so it's just a little town there that ends.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you the exact name, but so here, this is the last part of the last paragraph. He said, "I went to the water and put my hand in and cupped some of it and tasted salt. Sergei immediately stripped down to his briefs and dove in and swam. Volodya recorded the event with a video camera while I made a sketch of the bay and the ocean and the sky. During his dip, Sergei stepped on a sea urchin's spine, a painful development, but he mentioned it only in passing among the shouting, hilarity, and mutual congratulations. Finally, we were here. Today was Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's the day they arrived.
Ooh.
9/11.
What? Who funded it? How did he fund it? Does it say?
He doesn't say. I mean, he had a budget. He said $4,000 that he could spend on the car.
It must have cost more than that.
No, that's what it cost. It was an old used.
No, I mean the whole trip.
Oh yeah. But he didn't go into any details. They didn't live lavishly. They camped a lot of the times, slept in the car, or slept in a tent outside the car. Oh yeah, they were roughing it. They were really roughing it. Yeah, they were not.
Probably lost a lot of weight. I would think.
Always thinking, yeah, probably.
Probably. So you recommend this to anybody who's listening to the Two Old Bucks?
If you're a fan of history, geography, and just how another part of the world works, yeah, it's going to be in the liner notes. They're long articles, but I found them very interesting. Moving right along, as they say, moving right along. I've got a letter from afar here.
Okay.
And I thought we need to recognize. This is we're going to give a shout out to Vixen Nancy, who lives in Northport, Florida.
Okay.
Now she's presently recuperating from major surgery.
Okay.
And she wrote, and I'm not going to read all her exact words here, but basically she said she's been binge listening to the Bucks during her recuperation period.
So the old Bucks not only can help people fall asleep at night.
You're right.
It can be recommended as therapy for somebody in
pain medication.
Medication.
If you think your stomach hurts.
If you think that knee replacement is painful, listen to the Two Old Bucks. Hey, Nancy, if you're still listening out there, all the best to you. Thank you for.
We love you, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you for sending your note.
Get well soon. And with that,
this is Old Buck Dell.
Hey, and this is Old Buck Dave
saying adios.
Adios, or as they say in Russia, do svidaniya.
Do svidaniya.